Hey guys, this is Faith Cawthon-Green, and I am going live today. God woke me up in the middle of the night and He gave me this profound word that I want to share with you today. And so the title is, Do You Have What It Takes to Be a Conqueror? So as I was preparing for this, God was just kind of speaking to me this morning, and I was, if you know my story, I've made a great number of sacrifices in my life to be where I am, to be able to deliver a word, to accept the call on my life because of the assignment on my life. I've walked away from a job. I've walked away from my lifestyle. I've walked away from relationships. I've walked away from so many things. And, I've made so many sacrifices in my life because of that. And some days, like I said, because I live off of faith, some days I'm like, all right, God, where the gas money coming from today? God, where the diaper money coming from today? God, where we eating today? How we eating today? Where the groceries coming from today? And God said something to me this morning. He said, I put you into a state of lack or a state of poverty so that you could conquer that spirit. And I was like, He was like, I put you into poverty, not having enough, lack, shortage, or whatever, so that you could conquer the spirit of poverty. And so I was sitting with that, and He said, you know how, if you listen to me a lot, I always say we've all been called to become an answer to a problem in the earth. And so when I was thinking about that, if you listen to the last live I did where I was saying the struggle isn't real, because every struggle every hardship, every situation in your life is crafted by God for His specific purpose. And so He was like, I've kept you in this space so that you could take down the spirit of poverty and conquer it. And He said, I created everyone in the earth is supposed to be conquering something. He said, every situation, every scenario that I put my people into is for them to conquer a system, a spirit of brokenness, a broken perspective, a way that we operate that's not in alignment with God, and to take us back to the origins of where God designs for us to be. So here's the question that I want to ask you guys. How many systems has God called you to conquer that instead you came into agreement with? And so when I think about that, I'll just give you an example. Let's just say we're talking about poverty, not having enough, lack, shortage, whatever you want to call it. God was like, I can't take you into prosperity until you've conquered poverty. And I was like, okay, so here's the thing. What many of us do is we get caught up in that space, and instead of operating in full obedience to God to figure out how we get out of that space, we struggle with the space. We go, man, I'm in poverty. Let me get another job. Let me work 2 jobs. Let me work 3 jobs. Or maybe I need a job that pays more. So let me quit this one and go do something else. And I was saying this the other day, that we got to stop teaching our kids job culture and start teaching them purpose culture, because too many of us are outside of our purpose and not on the post where God has for us to be. So we haven't become the conquerors that we were meant to conquer. This is why the world is so out of whack, because each of us was meant to come forth and conquer something that goes against the kingdom of God. Watch. Conquer something that feeds into a system of oppression. Okay, God. Poverty is a thing that feeds into a system of oppression. Job mentality, job culture is something that feeds into a system of oppression. Illness is something that feeds into a system of oppression. We were all meant to go forth and conquer something. So if God put you in a position of illness, He didn't put you in it. Jesus, I feel the presence of God. Okay. He didn't put you in it for you to be consumed by it. He put you in it so that you could conquer it and be refined by it. But what's happening is, because so many of us are afraid, we fall victim to the fear of loss. That thing that we were meant to conquer ends up consuming us. See, that job system, he might have put you under a system. He might have put you into a system so that you could learn to understand the system, so that you could in turn conquer or break the system. See, I don't know where God placed you, but every territory that he placed you in, he placed you there, not so you could assimilate into it, not so you could come into agreement with it, but so that you could conquer the system, because the system is what man created. That's the system of law. We wonder why the law don't work for us. Why? Because we're trying to operate under it instead of conquer the brokenness of it. This is why I say it's so important to operate under the Spirit of God, under the full obedience of the Spirit of God, because the only way that you can go through and conquer something is if you allow the Spirit to direct you on how, first of all, why you're there. You first got to understand, why am I here, God? Why did you place me here? Yep, you might be there to get provision for your family for a season, but that's not your primary purpose for being there. Your primary purpose for being there is so that you can understand a system, so that you can bring change to a system, so that you can conquer a system, so that you can bring about. You see, the problem is, like I said, we've assimilated. Watch this. So church has come into agreement with the system of money. Church has come into agreement with the system of politics. Church has come into agreement with the system of law. This is why the system is influencing the church and not the church influencing the system, because we were meant to be conquerors. Watch this. We're supposed to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, right? We were created in his image. Jesus was sent to conquer death. He came and he conquered death so that forever and ever going forward, we don't have to fall to be consumed by death. So the system, watch this. So let me see if I can find it. I think it's in Exodus. When God tells the children of Israel, this is Exodus chapter 14, this is verses 13 and 14. It says, "But Moses said to the people, 'Do not fear. Stand by and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will perform for you today. The Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see them again ever. The Lord will fight for you while you keep silent.'" See, they were put into a system of oppression, not to fall under the system, but to conquer the system. This is also, I talked about this on my last live, why when Moses fell victim to the people, why he couldn't go to the promise, because he was supposed to be the one to lead them into conquering the system, but he kept shrinking down beneath the people. So the Israelites stayed in a system of oppression, even once they were delivered from. God sent Moses to lead them out of the system of oppression. And when they get into the wilderness, they're out of the system of oppression. But they didn't break the mindset of the system of oppression. You know why? Because they didn't understand the purpose of why they had been in that system of oppression. It was so that they could overcome it. So here it is. They've literally been delivered from slavery. And when they get delivered from slavery, because their mindset didn't get delivered from slavery, they're still operating as if they are slaves in the wilderness, which is why they never got to go into, most of them, never got to go into the promise. So here's the thing. We're meant to be conquerors of a system. That enemy, when he said, "This enemy that you see before you today, you will never see again," that was God's plan. For them to never For them to never have to fall victim to the system of oppression, for them to never have to be consumed by that system of oppression again. But what happened? They took the oppressive mindset with them. They didn't understand what the purpose was. They didn't understand that they were put there to conquer the system. So then God is saying, I'm delivering you. Look, you've seen this enemy. I've delivered you from this enemy. I've delivered you from this poverty. I've delivered you from this slavery. I've delivered you from being a borrower and not a lender. I've delivered you from illness. I'm trying to bring you into deliverance, and you trying to go back into oppression. And you don't even understand that it's your broken mindset, your lack of understanding of who I am and what I'm trying to do through this situation that's actually keeping you oppressed. You think it's your circumstances that are keeping you oppressed. That's not what's keeping you oppressed. What's keeping you oppressed is your mindset, your inability to walk by the Spirit, your inability to connect with me, your inability to allow me to lead you. That's what he was trying to get them to do in the wilderness. He's like, okay, now I brought you out of this system of oppression. Now I need to teach you again how to follow me. Come on, God. See, I need you to be led by my Spirit again. So he gives them the cloud. He says, look, follow this. It's going to lead you and guide you. My Spirit will lead you and guide you, because this is the only way that you're going to get into the promise. And what did they do? God, why you bring us out here to die? God, we can just go back to Egypt. And he's like, bro, what? That's crazy. So parts of them, watch. Once those people with the broken mindset die in the wilderness, God takes them into the promised land. But what happens? It's only one generation, really, of people that were willing to conquer the slavery mindset so they could go into the promise. Then the next generation comes, and the next generation comes, and the next generation comes, and they're repeating the same cycle of going back into oppression again. So then what happens? They're not in charge. They don't have the territory of the promise anymore, because they kept falling back into what God meant for them to conquer. And how many of us do that now? We're like, oh, well, watch. If you can't beat them, join them. We got that mindset. Well, you know what? It's too hard to break this. I just got to fall under this system. I just got to take whatever this system is offering me. I just got to follow these rules that's been set by man. When God lives above the rules of man, God lives above time. He lives above the rules of man. He lives above the law. He lives above limits. But we allow ourselves to remain in this box of oppression because we don't understand that we were sent into that place, in that position, to conquer something. You see, when those angels fell from grace, they brought all these broken mindsets, the anti of obedience to God. They brought disobedience into the earth. Then God said, okay, there's all these areas of disobedience, because what does disobedience bring? Oppression. You know why? Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And if you're not operating under the Spirit, under full obedience, guess where you gonna be at? Oppressed, bound, tied up, chained down, weighed down, burdened. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. You see, God knows. I talked about this in the last live. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for prosperity and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope." So the reason that we keep seeing the same enemies over and over and over and over and over again, it's because we have not become the conquerors that we're supposed to be. So how do you become a conqueror? Well, first, you got to stop struggling with the process. You got to understand that God put you in that situation or that circumstance not to harm you, but to bring you into prosperity. So watch, he's not going to allow us to repeat the same thing that he allowed the children of Israel to do, where he brings them out of oppression, and because they bring the broken mindset of oppression out and into the wilderness, and then they go into the promise, they repeat the cycle and they drop the ball. That's not what he wants for us to do. He's waiting for us to be able to become content and see his purpose so that he can lead us out of the situation that we're in so that we can conquer it. How do you conquer it? You don't allow the situation to consume you. You allow it to refine you. You see, here's the thing. In my life, like I said, God has put me in many situations, and I've been angry with God, and I've been upset with God, and I've been mad with God, and why you do this, God? Why you ain't providing this, God? Why you send me here? Why? He's like, I sent you to conquer the system of divorce. I sent you to conquer religion. I sent you to conquer poverty. I sent you to conquer brokenness. I sent you to conquer. So I had to put you in all those things so that you would not be consumed by them, and understand that if you allow me to lead you, you will actually be delivered from them. And it goes back to my example that I was using in the last live of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? They get thrown into this fiery furnace. But instead of struggling, going, God, why you gonna let us get thrown into this furnace? Why we getting burned up? What's happening? They were calm, and they saw that Jesus was in it with them. That there was a divine purpose for that situation. So what happened? They were able to conquer the punishment of the king. Why? Because he couldn't punish them. You know why? Because Jesus was in it. They couldn't be consumed by the fire. But too many of us get in our situation, in our circumstance, and we allow it to consume us, and we get angry with God, we get frustrated with God, and we miss the entire point that we were supposed to break a chain to bring deliverance to a generation of people. But instead, we assimilate into the system, and we become a part of the matrix. So not only are we not becoming conquerors to break the system, now we become a part of the system, which means we become a part of the problem. Because as soon as you assimilate into the system, baby, you're a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. So we've assimilated, we've allowed ourselves, why? Because we're afraid to lose stuff. But his word says, Luke 17:33 says, whoever strives to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will keep it. You see, you gotta be willing to lose some stuff in order to conquer some stuff. But we can't conquer nothing because we're so afraid of losing that we allow that fear of loss to totally consume us, instead of allowing the situation that God is putting us in to refine us. He's looking for full obedience, not for you to assume that where you are is, or why God put you there. Oh, well, God blessed me with this job. God blessed me with this promotion. Maybe God did, and maybe God didn't. Maybe the enemy is dangling that pork chop in front of you so you won't go and break the system that he placed you there to break. So people ain't getting delivered. People ain't getting transformed. People ain't getting saved the way that they're supposed to. We're not having the impact that we're supposed to have because we have not become conquerors. And we think, listen, let me tell y'all something. Victory is not fleeting. Victory is finite. Y'all are convincing yourselves that because you got a job, because you got a promotion, because you got married, because you bought a house, because you got some money, because you bought a new car, that you got the victory. No, baby. No. You may have gotten a blessing, or you may have gotten some bait. You may have been caught up by some bait. But that is not victory. You know why? Because you can lose a house. Because you can lose a job. Because you can lose money. You can be broke. But victory is finite. You can only have victory if you actually conquer something. The definition of conquering is to cause something to fall. See, if you're gaining something up under a system, you have not been victorious over it. You have conquered absolutely nothing. You have simply received a consolation prize from the system. See, many of us assume that stuff that we receive is forward movement. Oh, we got a black CEO at this company. Oh, we got a black president. Oh, we got this. We got first black this, first black that. We got this. We got that. Listen. Those are consolation prizes. You know why? What happened when Obama left office? Did the system change? No. So that wasn't a victory. It was a consolation prize. See, the enemy wanted you to believe that you won something. Wanted you to divert your attention from the problem and believe that you won something. Voting rights. We won something, right? But did the system change? No. You know why? Because it was a consolation prize. Freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation. Freedom for slaves. Were the slaves freed? No, the system didn't change. You know why? Because we didn't conquer nothing. We just accepted a consolation prize. Why? Because we just accepted what the system offered us. But how are you supposed to go in and conquer the system? I'm not talking about fighting the system. See, there's the battle and then there's the war. See, and too many of us don't want to go into the war. We okay with fighting a battle here and there. But we don't want the war. See, in order to conquer, you have to lean into the war. If you run it from the draft, you ain't never going to become a conqueror. If you run it from the draft, you like, let them other people go over there and fight. I'm going to sit over here. I'm going to accept my consolation prize. I'm going to just take what I've got, this territory that I've got. Watch this. You know what's so funny about the enemy when he tempts Jesus in the wilderness? I thought it was so laughable because I said, is he offering Jesus territory that already belongs to him anyway? And that's exactly what the system is doing, and we ain't paying attention. We're being offered territory that God has already granted to us, and we're accepting it like we won something. And the enemy is just handing us over little pieces. Let's just say your territory is 40 acres and a mule. But you just happy to get 1 acre. Ooh, I got this 1 acre. And the enemy is laughing at you going, I gave him that 1 acre. They don't even know that this whole 40 acres belongs to them. Where are the conquerors? Where are the people that's willing to put their life on the line to win the war against the spirit of darkness? Against the kingdom of darkness. Where are the conquerors? We are missing our position. We are missing our call. Because we've assimilated under a system and we have accepted what has offered us, not understanding that all the territory was already granted to us. It already belongs to us. And I'm not talking about black people and white people, Spanish people. I'm talking about people of God. I'm talking about the kingdom of God. We don't have the influence, the territory, the resources, the provision that we're supposed to have because we don't understand what we were sent for, because we don't understand our purpose, because we don't understand our authority, because we don't understand our identity. So how you gonna be a conqueror? Everybody running around, I'm more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ. No, you ain't. You losing every day. You losing every day because you don't even understand that you're just assimilating under a system that's giving you constellation prizes every single day, and you accepting them. God is not a small scale God. He is not a God of limits. God's prosperity looks far greater than what we've convinced ourselves it looks like. So because we keep accepting the matrix, because we're afraid to step outside of ourselves, because we're afraid to step outside of our comfort zones, because we're afraid to take a leap of faith, because we're afraid to trust God, because we're afraid to walk by his spirit, because we're afraid to go against the status quo, because we're afraid to disrupt some stuff, because we're afraid to ruffle some feathers, we are losing every day. Deuteronomy 28 says, now it shall be, if you diligently obey the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments, which I am commanding you today, that the Lord your God will put you high above all of the nations of the earth. And all these blessings will come to you and reach you if you obey the Lord your God. Not obey the system. Not obey the law. Obey the spirit. Obey the voice of God. Obey the direction of God. Obey the insight of God. Blessed you will be in the city, and blessed will you be in the country. Blessed will be the children of your womb, the produce of your ground, and the offspring of your animals, the newborn of your herd, and the young of your flock. Blessed will be your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed will you be when you come in, and blessed will you be when you go out. The Lord will cause your enemies to rise up against you and be defeated by you. They will go out against you one way and will flee at your presence in 7 ways. The Lord will command the blessing for you in your barns and in everything that you put your hand to, and he will bless you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. The Lord will establish you as a holy people to himself. Here's the thing. If your womb ain't blessed, you haven't become a conqueror like you're supposed to be. If you haven't become the lender and not the borrower, you haven't become the conqueror that you're supposed to be. If you're not blessed in the city and blessed in the country, you haven't become the conqueror that you're supposed to be. If your kneading basket and your barns ain't full and everything that you put your hands to isn't blessed, you haven't become the conqueror that you're supposed to be. So what space are you in? What system have you come into agreement with that you were actually meant to conquer? Here's the opposite. So that's the covenant of obedience. Here is the promise of disobedience, the curse. It says, but it shall come about if you do not obey the Lord your God. Be careful to follow all his commandments and his statutes, which I am commanding you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Cursed will you be in the city, and cursed will you be in the country. Cursed will be your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed will be the children of your womb and the produce of your ground, the newborn of your herd and the offspring of your flock. Cursed will you be when you come in, and cursed will you be when you go out. The Lord will send against you curses, panic, and rebuke in everything you undertake to do until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly. Every time you accept the consolation prize from a system that you're supposed to be conquering, a curse will follow, because you're not operating under the full obedience of God. We have been called to be more than conquerors. Romans 8:28 says, it says, and we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God. See, every situation that you've been put in is supposed to work. You know what's so funny about this? It's supposed to work for the good of those who love God. It doesn't say it's just for your good. It says for good of those who love God, which means that all things that work together in your life are not just for your good. They're for the good of somebody else. See, you're operating under this singular-minded territory, and God is trying to place you above an impact, above nations, so that you can impact nations, so that you can deliver multitudes of people. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to become conformed to the image, watch, of his son. See, his son was sent to conquer some stuff. Jesus conquered death. Jesus conquered persecution. Jesus conquered religion. Jesus conquered the law. So why are we still falling victim to all of these things? Why are we still being consumed by all of these things? So that he would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. You see, you're supposed to look like him. You're supposed to walk like him. You're supposed to talk like him. You're supposed to move like him. So you can be his sisters and his brothers. And these whom he predestined, he also called. And these whom he called, he also justified. And these whom he justified, he also glorified. What then shall say to these things? If God is for us, who is against us? He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him over for us all, how will he not also with him freely give us all things? Listen, and then verse let me go down. So verse 37, but in all these things we overwhelmingly conquer through him who loved us. The reason that we're not receiving what we were meant to receive, the reason that we're not seeing the impact that we want to see. How many times do we see these police brutality cases and we march in the street and we whoop whoop and wop wop, but the system ain't changed. You know why? Because we're still trying to operate too far under the system, within the system. And God is trying to direct you how to conquer the system as a whole. But because we're not allowing him to direct us in specifically how to do that, we simply just winning a battle. But the war, we still losing. Because too many of us are not in position. Because too many of us have not understood the assignment. Y'all don't understand the assignment. And thus, the kingdom of God is losing. The body is out of position, is out of whack, is sick, is dismembered. It's disloyal. It's in discord. It's filthy. It's a mess. Because we don't understand what we were sent here for. Do you have what it takes to be a conqueror? What system have you come into agreement with that you were sent to conquer?